Hey there. Welcome to another live stream. This time around, I am going solo again. Um, just waiting for some people to join in first before I start the list. I guess I can kind of talk about a few things. Hey there. Hey Jedi. Hello to everybody who is here in the stream tonight. Uh, hey there, Monoval. Um, DJ, I mean, sure. I thought about that actually, doing maybe an underrated '90s gems thing in the future sometime. So that'll definitely be something that I have in mind. Hey there, howdy. Yeah, I really appreciated that comment. That honestly kind of made my day. So thank you. Um, I've been kind of going back and forth in some ways in terms of like what's going on with YouTube and everything. So it definitely does cheer me up when I get kind words like that. Definitely does put some things in perspective in terms of what I'm doing. Um, yeah, I definitely agree that alligator is underrated. In fact, Cole, that is actually the first title on my list is alligator. Alligator is a really underrated, overlooked gem from 1980. It's a really fun creature feature with Robert Forster and Richard Lynch. And I don't think Richard. No, is it Richard Lynch? I think it's Henry Silva actually. Now that I think about it. Um, so I was probably I was thinking that I think Richard Lynch might be in the sequel. That might be what I'm thinking of. But anyway, Alligator, it's a take on Jaws, but it deals with a more tongue-in-cheek concept. This time around, about a giant alligator that was left behind in the sewers, and then it grew to like giant size, and then started attacking people. It's a legitimately fun one. It does have a Blu-ray, Cole. It has a 4K Blu-ray combo by Screen Factory. Yeah, I know the DVD was really hard to find at one point. I actually had the DVD prior to getting the Blu-ray and the 4K. I actually got it for pretty cheap a long time ago. Um, Alligator or Crawl? I liked Crawl a lot. I saw that in the theater. I think I also saw Alligator in the theater. Now that I remember, I did actually see Alligator in the theater. I saw it in 35 millimeter. Um, I would say I like Alligator more. Crawl's good, but Alligator's got that 80s charm to it, and it's also got a lot more practical effects, and I think it has a better cast overall. Um, Alligator or Lake Placid? Alligator. I'm definitely gonna go with Alligator on that one. The Blob. The Blob and Leviathan, yeah, they're underrated. I didn't really have either one of those, I don't think, on this list though, because I don't know. I've talked about those a lot, and the Blob remake in particular is considered to be a more appreciated film of the year. Actually, I do have Leviathan on my list now that I remember. But I don't have the Blob. I actually do have the Blob on there. I forgot. This is an older list. Like I made this list like years ago, like before I even started doing any streams. So forgive me if I'm a little discombobulated. I think it's also because I also got done watching Blue is the Warmest Color, and I'm just trying to get back into some semblance of let's just say energy, because that film is so slow and boring. Like never has lesbian sex been less interesting or less enticing to watch as Blue is the Warmest Color. Um, but yeah, the Blob and Leviathan are definitely underrated. Warlock, yeah, that's a good one. I even like the sequel. I It's really sad what happened with Julian Sands. It seems like he went missing while he was going hiking, and then honestly, it seems like he might no longer be with us because he's been missing for so long, and they still haven't found him. So my guess is that he's not doing that well. He's probably not around, which sucks. Um, may he rest in peace if it is eventually confirmed that he's dead. Um, yeah, Leviathan's coming to 4K. Yeah, I heard about that. I thought it was supposed to come out in 4K last year. But I guess something's just going on. Phantasm. Yeah, it's weird, but I definitely wouldn't consider that one underrated. Um, yeah, yeah, that's a good one. I don't think I have it on my list, but yeah, that is a nice one. That's a good one by Martin Scorsese. Um, hey there, OCP. Hey there, Jason. I had to say hi to myself. I haven't done a stream by myself in forever, so it might be a little awkward. So yeah, Alligator I do recommend. It's a fun creature feature. Definitely one of those films that is an enjoyable movie. Opinions on Dust Devil, never seen it. Dust Devil is a film that's not for everyone. I remember the last time I saw it, I didn't mind it. For the visuals, for the editing and the directing, but the plot's kind of out there, and it's not your typical kind of film. It's kind of worth a watch just for the visuals and the idea and the concept of it. I think it also features one of the few legitimately good performances by Robert John Burke. I actually have the 2 disc DVD from back in the day that's been out of print forever, and it's an interesting set because it has like some documentaries about like the occult and like the Nazis, Nazi Germany, and how they were into the occult and whatever. And there's a whole documentary about that on the 2 disc Dust Devil DVD. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting flick. Not for everyone though. I don't Jedi's. I don't think it. I don't. I'm looking at it right now. No, I don't have that on my because I don't really think that's necessarily one that's considered to be overlooked. Like that film's talked about a lot. Um, that's why some of these, like the Blob remake, I almost want to. I didn't really look through the entire list before decided to do this video. So that's one that like I might edit out because the Blob remake is talked about a considerable amount within horror circles nowadays. Um, the next one I have on my list though is Alone in the Dark, which is a really nice, fun slasher thriller from the early 80's. I think it was 82. Got a great cast. I mean, you've got Donald Pleasance and Jack Palance. You've also got Martin Landau. They're like these bunch of nuts that escape from the nut house, and then they go on a bit of a killing spree. It actually has a guy in a hockey mask killing people in one scene, or before Friday the 13th Part 3, or there's a guy in a hockey mask who gets killed. It's been a while since I've seen it last, so I'm not 100% sure the order of what happened. Um, yeah, Alone in the Dark, the game, yeah, it's not related at all. It's a completely different kind of thing. I think yeah, Jack Shoulder, I believe, directed it. Um, yeah, yeah, directed by Jack Shoulder. And he did a really good job with it. No, Chase, I cannot speak German. But thanks for saying hi. Um, my a friend of mine who I do a podcast with named Josh. He has a channel called Dancing with Ghosts. He can speak German, but I can. But going back to Alone in the Dark, yeah, it's a fun one. If you like slasher, you like horror films, especially like 80's horror, I definitely would recommend that one. It's a lot better than the Alone in the Dark movie, that's for sure. Tara Reid is a scientist, and Christian Slater. Um, Begotten, yeah, that's a 90's film, and I wouldn't have that on my list, and I'm not really big on Begotten either. Karate Kid Part 2, I loved it. I liked it a lot. I guess it's one that I could probably add to the list because, yeah, you're right. That is pretty overlooked. I'm gonna add it to the list right now. Actually, thanks for reminding me of that one because I really like Karate Kid Part 2. In fact, I like it more than the first movie. I think it should be on a list like this. There we go. It's on the list. Also, right now I'm gonna post a link to the list in the comments for you guys. So there you go. You can take a look at my list. So, what's the most anticipated physical media release this year? One of them is definitely the Abyss 4K. I would probably say that it is my most anticipated release that I'm aware of. I think it's supposed to come out. I think it's coming out in March, so it's coming out next month. I think sometime, if I remember correctly. Really, really excited about that. I cannot wait to see the Abyss in 4K because it's one of my favorites. Um, yeah, there was a film based on the video game Alone in the Dark. Yeah, I mentioned that one. I mean, I like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It's a classic, but I wouldn't consider that to be underrated. I definitely wouldn't put that on my list. Bogus Journey, though. Yes, I've seen Star Crystal Cole. I fucking hate that movie. It's like one of the first movies I remember having an extreme reaction to the point where I threw the tape in the trash because I hated it that much. No, I haven't checked out the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray of Grave Robbers. I should maybe, put that on my list. No, I don't have that one. Demon City Shinjuku. I like that, but I wouldn't necessarily put it on a list of the most underrated gems for me. The next one that I have on this list is not a horror film, although I think it has like it might have like a little horror parody in it, or I might be thinking of a different. Yeah, there's kind of horror elements in it, not a lot though. Amazon Women on the Moon, a really fun comedy movie that has a lot of different spoofs and skits that are thrown together. It's centered around a television station which shows like an old 50s sci-fi B movie, but then there's all these other like random sort of things that happen throughout the screenings. You see like commercials and other, little stories. An amazing cast, like a really great cast in this of stars. Some of them long before they became famous, Michelle Pfeiffer, um, David Allen Greer, you got Andrew Dice Clay as a cameo. You got yeah, there's just a really interesting cast of very talented people. Griffin Dunn, Joe Pantoliano, Carrie Fisher's also has a bit role in it. Arsenio Hall. There's this bit with Arsenio Hall and like a videotape that just keeps kicking his ass. And actually, it's not a videotape. It does kick the videotape. A VCR does hit him in the face, like the VHS pops out and smacks him right in the face. But no, he's just having the worst day ever. Like everything that could go possibly wrong is going wrong, and it's hilarious. And the clip is on YouTube, I think. But yeah, I really enjoy films like this anyway, like these movies that combine like different sort of skits into a movie. And Amazon Women on the Moon is a really fun one. So, ever seen Cut and Run? Not yet. I actually haven't seen that one yet. I do have that on Blu-ray though. I can't really say anything about Children of the Lesser God, Monteval, because I don't actually have that movie, and I don't think I've ever seen it. Somewhere in Time, that's an interesting one. I'm not super big on like romance films, and it's been years since I've seen it last, so I wouldn't necessarily put that on a list either for me. Do I have any shelves that bolted to my wall? No, actually, these shelves aren't bolted to my wall at all. um, some of them are kind of leaning a little bit forward. It's probably not the safest thing. That's for sure. I think I'd be kind of screwed if there was an earthquake, but I'd be screwed anyway if there was an earthquake. Of course, Nuki's not on the list. If I'm talking about worst films of the 80's, probably. Terror Within is a bit underrated. Yeah, I do like Terror Within. I think it's a fun creature feature. I would say I prefer Creature when it comes to like an alien knockoff over that film, but yeah, Amazon Women in the Moon. If you like sketch comedies, you like that kind of stuff, definitely check that one out sometime. The next one I have on my list is American Anthem. It's a film that came out in 1986, directed by Albert Mangoli, and American Anthem. Yeah, it stars this guy with an unfortunate name, Mitch Gaylord, who was also in this movie called American Tiger or American Rickshaw, which is horrible. The one where Donald Pleasance turns into a pig. Yeah, that's an actual scene in that movie, by the way. But so American Anthem, you have this guy named Mitch Gaylord who wasn't much of an actor, but I don't really like it for the acting and the performances. I like it for like the style and the aesthetic. It's a gymnastics sports drama movie. That's really what it is. And you have this underdog gymnastics guy, played by Mitch Gaylord, who actually is a real gymnast, and it does show in the scenes where he's doing gymnastics in the film. And he climbs his way up the ladder, so to speak, and makes it to the Olympics and all of that. It's just a pretty entertaining 80's sports drama, if you're into that kind of thing, with a great soundtrack. Really underrated soundtrack. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty obscure. American Anthem is a pretty obscure one, that's for sure. Yeah, Deadly Spawn, that's a fun one. I like that one. I'm waiting for the Blu-ray from Synapse. I know they're restoring it. Be nice. No, I didn't get the Terror Within double feature Blu-ray. It was too expensive at the time, and I just wasn't really feeling like it was something that I absolutely had to have because I have like a Terror Within. I have it on DVD, and I think it's like a double feature with another movie, and then I also have the Terror Within 2 separately on Blu-ray. Yeah, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. It's a good TV movie. I don't think I included it because it's a TV film, so maybe it's kind of a separate kind of deal. But I bet that is a good one, DJ. That's a they did a sequel recently. I don't know how the hell you do a sequel, and I have not heard good things about that one at all. Yeah, Deep Space. I enjoy that one too, um, but not as much as some of these other ones. But I would say it's definitely his best film. Although I think he all did no, that was Jim Warnowski. That was the guy who did Swamp Return of Swamp Thing. Thoughts on Mill Creek getting the rights? Disney, I guess they clearly don't give a shit about Blu-rays or home video or anything right now because they're just like, oh, we'll just take whatever offer is given to us. And Mill Creek gave us an offer for the rights to release these films from, Hollywood Pictures, Touchstone, and 20th Century Fox. All right, here you go, Mill Creek. You win. And I'm like, Mill Creek is like one of the worst companies to get the rights to all of those. Like, really, the best thing would have been for Kino Lorber to get a deal instead of Mill Creek, because Kino already released titles that were from like Touchstone, Hollywood, and Fox in the past. Um, Mysterious Mr. Enter Chase. I haven't seen a video of his in years, so I could say that at one point in time, I did find some of his videos interesting, but then it just got to the point where his way of reviewing things just got really old for me and kind of annoying. So then I just stopped watching. Home Sweet Home, that film's terrible. But hey, if you enjoy it, cool. No problem. Um yeah, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow too. Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard it's terrible. It's awful. Yeah, they have been releasing some fun titles, Mill Creek, but it's just they're just not the best company to be doing this stuff. Like they'll release stuff, but they won't really put a lot of extra work into features. Although they're starting to move in that direction because they've been doing that with some of the TV show sets that they did. Their set of Sequest DSV, for instance. They had some featurettes. So they actually worked with Red Shirt Pictures on some of the features. So they're working on some things. Maybe they're moving up. Maybe they're getting better. Maybe the then end result will actually be pretty good. But I'm just thinking about how much better Kino would have done with that deal. So it's kind of a bummer to me. But then again, it's kind of cool because I think Mill Creek will actually release some of these films, like Blood In and Blood Out, or Shoot to Kill, or some of these other movies that Disney doesn't care about. I hope they release a run with yeah, it's with what's it? Patrick Dempsey, I think. I think that's who it is in that. Yeah, You're Not Alone, Psycho Hobo. Yeah. Yeah, the Dead Space movie, that one really sucks. I agree, Austin. The New Kids is underrated. And I don't think I have that one on here. Well, I'm going to add that to the list because I really like the New Kids. Great James Spader performance in that. And honestly, one of Sean S. Cunningham's best movies. I actually think it's better than Friday the 13th. Sue me. I know it's kind of a controversial opinion, but I definitely do feel that's better than the first Friday the 13th. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Their transfers are hit and miss, and that's what's kind of disappointing about it. That was made in the 90s, I think. I think the sequel was made in the 90s, Dream a Little Dream 2. Well, yeah, I mean, I heard about it. Yeah, I heard their trilogy release is pretty bad. Thankfully, I have the Arrow release. Yeah, I've seen Brandon Tenold. I'm actually subscribed to him. Yeah, he does a good job. I like his videos. I think one of my favorite video reviews of his is Creepshow 3. Yeah, River's Edge, that's a good one. That's a good thriller. Can't Buy Me Love, it's watchable. It's all okay. Yes. Yes, Firstborn, Austin. Yes, love that movie. Great. Um, that's on my list actually. Really like the soundtrack on that. Peter Weller is just a slimy scumbag in that and just a lot of fun to watch. Play a despicable drug dealer. Um, yeah, the New Kids, there's a special edition in the UK from 101 Films that does have some features on it. But not a lot of extra stuff, that's for sure. Hey there, Bryce. Hey there, Jose. Hey there, Nick. Thanks for joining. Um, let's get back to the list. So next one I have is American Pop, directed by Ralph Bakshi. Just a visually stunning animated movie, just great. I think a lot of the scenes were actually with real actors, and then there was rotoscoping involved, after the fact, and just adds a lot to it, adds a little extra a bit of energy to the animation, an extra bit of life, and it's just a rundown of history, the history of music, with just a lot of great tracks, a lot of great songs. My personal favorite scene in that is the scene featuring "Hell Is for Children" by Pat Benatar. Love that sequence. And I'm just a big fan of Ralph Bakshi and his animation. And this is honestly one of my favorites of his. And it's something that doesn't really get talked about enough. And American Pop doesn't even have a Blu-ray. So I'm hoping that that gets a Blu-ray sometime. But it might not, because it's just might be one of those things where it's just the music rights. Because there's just so many different types of artists that are used in in the soundtrack for American Pop that it would probably cost like an arm and a leg to get the rights for the music. Um, hey there, Bobby. Thanks for the donation. Have you ever heard of Gojo Fan 1993? He appeared in a couple of Brandon Tenold's videos. Not really. I haven't heard of that guy, but hey, I'll maybe look into his channel one of these days. Wow, another donation from Psycho Hobo this time. Dune. Yes, I love Dune. One of my favorite science fiction films. Looks great in 4K. The restoration by Arrow is just amazing. And I never really read the book, so I've never been one of those people that was like, "Oh my god, the book is so much better." From what I've been hearing, it sounds like a relatively unfilmable book to begin with. And David Lynch is just such a unique filmmaker with a very unique style. And what's interesting about Dune is that the first time I saw it, I was kind of I was very lukewarm on it and just kind of not really a big fan. But there's just something about it that just kept speaking to me. And I'm a really big fan of like behind the scenes stuff, behind the making of books and so on. And I came across this book called The Making of Dune by Ed Naha, and it looked like it might be interesting. And even though I wasn't a big fan of the movie when I first saw it in VHS, I was like, I like this stuff. And I read the making of, and I was hooked from like page one. Like I read the entire thing in like one night, and I just thought it was a really enthralling chronicle of a very troubled and just really crazy production, and it just gave me a newfound respect for the film. And then I rewatched the movie, and then it just clicked for me because I was like, wow, this is actually something special, even for the time, and especially nowadays, considering that a lot of stuff is just CGI and they don't do a lot of practical effects, and you don't build a lot of sets and things like that. Here's a few things that I remember off the top of my head from that book. So the production of Dune was a massive undertaking. It was, in fact, the first time that crews from the United States, the UK, and I believe Mexico worked together on a production. It was that big of a production. You had like crews from all over the world working together on the movie. There is a sequence that is shot in what is considered to be, I think it's the Duke's throne room, or the King's, or somebody's throne room, and it's made entirely out of real gold. Not fake gold, folks. Real fucking gold. And that's the kind of attention to detail and stuff that just got lost on me the first time that I saw the movie. But one thing that it definitely stood out for me from the beginning that I really liked was the score by Toto. I really liked that score. American Pop. Yeah, it does. It needs a new Blu-ray. Please. I don't know what to say about that, Bryce, about Cody Leach. I mean, it sounds kind of lame, but I don't really watch his videos, so I don't really have much to say. Yeah, Goji fan, 1993. Sorry for mispronouncing his name, and thanks again, Bobby, for another super chat. What's up? Yeah. Hey there, Samuel. You know what, Chase? I actually haven't seen Game of Thrones, so I don't really have much thoughts on it. I know I actually haven't seen the new Dune yet, folks. I do need to watch it one of these days. Yeah, I know a lot about like Dune tie-ins and stuff like that. Yeah, there was the Dune toy line, and then there was also like coloring books and a bunch of other different things. Yeah, Lynch actually disowned the director's cut, the extended cut of Dune that's only available on the old Blu-ray, where it's a flipper, the old DVD actually, it's a flipper disc, because it's unofficial. He didn't sign off on it. They just took like a TV cut of Dune and then just like put it together with a theatrical version and just cobbled things together. And there's actually been interviews with David Lynch that he hasn't completely disowned Dune. He just has disowned the director's cut of Dune because he's not a fan of that at all. Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah, Jodorowsky, crazy, crazy review. I mean, crazy documentary. That's what I meant to say. What is my crown jewel in my collection? I got a lot of them, but I'm actually gonna get one of my crown jewels. I mean, one of the things that I'd been trying to find for years, and I paid a pretty penny for this too. It wasn't cheap. This Laserdisc set, the Encyclopedia of Horror. It's a Japanese exclusive. It's only released in Japan. It was not released in the US. And the reason why this is one of my crown jewels is not just because of its rarity and how badass it looks, but because of the fact that it is a um, release of a short-lived show called This Is Horror that was hosted by, and I think I don't know if it was produced by Stephen King, but Stephen King was very heavily involved with it. And I remember watching a VHS of This Is Horror and just really liking it because what it is, it's almost like Eli Roth's History of Horror before Eli Roth's History of Horror, but with a lot of interviews and behind the scenes stuff. So like behind the scenes footage of like the makeup effects guys working on A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, the Dream Master and the effects and other stuff. And in some instances, there's like behind the scenes footage that's like exclusive to this series. So this is something I always wanted because it never got an official release anywhere else, only on this Laserdisc set. And this set just keeps on giving with this just awesomeness because like this is what the first disc looks like in terms of the cover art. It's crazy, huh? Super trippy. And then you have the second disc. Like this whole set is just a work of art that I love. I love it. It's really cool. And then you have disc 3. And then there is the fourth disc. So, yeah, and then there's like a liner note thing that doesn't really show much of anything, so it's not really something that's a must see or anything in terms of the set. So Yeah, huge, huge, huge fan of that set. It was not cheap. I think it was like over $200 or something to import it to the US. Um, Thanks again, Bobby. Yeah, it's cool. It's all right. Thanks for correcting that for me. So yeah, that's one of my crown jewels. Is that that set? Thanks again, Psycho Hobo. Thank you. If 80's Dune would have gotten a sequel, things would have gotten extremely weird, extremely complicated. Yeah, they would have. The film was just to me, I don't think it was ever destined to be a mainstream hit. Like from the beginning, it was just too out there and too weird. I mean, at screenings, they were handing out pamphlets and booklets with explanations about certain terminology and certain things dealing with the movie. And when you have to do that, then you know that this is not something that's going to click for a wide audience. But, it would have been I would have seen it. I would have been interested in it. I mean, that's for sure. So yeah, American Pop, really like that one. The next one that I have on my list, going back to the list, is Amsterdamned. Amsterdamned is, in my opinion, a really overlooked Dutch slasher with a really just badass, thrilling boat chase, which is honestly one of the best boat chases I've ever seen. And it's a really cool concept of a mysterious diver who's hiding in Amsterdam's canal system and he's killing people. And there's these detectives that are set up to try to, find out who it is and stop them from killing. And there's some brutal kills in it. And it's got a nice sense of style to it. I think it's honestly Dick Moss's best film because the same guy also directed The Lift and the remake of The Lift, which is called The Shaft. So, yeah, I really like Amsterdamned. It's got a good Blu-ray from I think it's Blue Underground. Yeah, Gozer. I've heard about Waxwork Records. I don't have a record player, so I never really bother to get anything. But it's cool if for people who are into records and they have a lot of uh records and have a record player to work with. But I don't, so. But yeah, Amsterdam. That's a definite gem for me, for sure. Amsterdam. Um, I what I don't understand. I don't understand this comment from Chase. I don't. Is there something going on in the chat? Like I know I have some moderators who are on here, so I don't. Feel free to put somebody in a timeout or something. I don't know. I really don't know what's going on with that. Um, I'm not I don't know if it's meant to be directed towards me because 'cause I'm not a fan of that of Ready Player One, so I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, teach their own, Ribbling. Like, I respectfully disagree. I don't think it's his worst. It's actually one of my favorites of his. Um, do I think that Nightmare on Elm Street box set will be a reality? If it does happen, it probably won't happen with Scream Factory. Scream Factory's been trying numerous times, and Warner Brothers just basically been ignoring them. So I'm pretty sure, it would get. I think it would just get a release from Warner Brothers, and it wouldn't be really anything that special, and they'd probably charge like crazy amount of money. So, Phantasm 2, yeah, I really do like that one. Um, but it's Phantasm 2. I think that's a little bit more well known within like horror circles than some of these other titles. Although I do have some of, fairly popular stuff like Shocker in here, but I only have that one on there because I think it's just not talked about enough. And when it is, it's mostly dunked on. But the next film I have is a drama. You know, to each their own, man. Davey Vids, I disagree. I don't think it's the most boring 80s movie. I've seen a lot more boring 80s movies than Dune. Um, but yeah, the next film I have on my list is An Innocent Man, which is directed by Peter Yates. It stars Tom Selleck, F. Murray Abraham, David Rash, and it's similar to like Lock Up with Stallone, but I really enjoy it. I think it's a good film. I think it's a good drama. I think it has one of Tom Selleck's best performances. He plays this guy named Jimmy Rainwood, who is just, you know, minding his own business, and then these two corrupt, just shitty, just asshole cops break into his house. They think he's a drug dealer, but they are so coked up themselves that they don't realize that they're in the wrong house. They shoot him, and then they decide to set him up for, you know, having drugs. And so they essentially set this poor innocent man up and frame him as a drug dealer. He gets convicted of this crime, gets sent to jail, and then it becomes like a prison drama, you know, where it's like, oh, you know, this innocent guy trying to survive prison. And, you know, it's got a good performance by Tom Selleck, and I think Peter Yates did a good job directing it, and the drama is really effective, and really solid, and you really sympathize with the Tom Selleck's character because you're like, wow, like man, that guy got totally fucked over, and I I just can't stand dirty cops. Like dirty cops just really get under my skin. And David Rash did such a good job playing one of those dirty cops, and so did the other guy. I forgot his name. Tobin Bell's also in this. You know, the Saw killer. He has a little brief role in the movie. But yeah, An Innocent Man. I like that one. April Fool's Day is the next one I have on my list by Fred Dalton from 1986. April Fool's Day to me is one of the more underrated slashers of the 80s. Yes, it technically doesn't have a real body count if you know what the twist is, but that's one of the reasons why I really like it because it's so unique when it comes to its twist and its setup, and it fits because it's called April Fool's Day. And I just love the cast. That's a big reason why I am pretty into this movie. And hey, Monovol, yeah, check it out sometime. I definitely do recommend it. Uh, yeah, love the cast. A lot of fun with Amy Steele, Ken Oland, Deborah Foreman, Clayton Roner, Tom F. Wilson. Goes by at a good pace. Yeah, really, really enjoy April Fool's Day. The remake though is a piece of shit. Stay away from that, but check out the original April Fool's Day. So yeah, April Fool's Day. Then I have a Michael Dudikoff direct to video action movie. Well, it wasn't really direct to video. It had a brief theatrical run, but it didn't really do a whole lot in the box office. But yeah, Venging Force with Michael Dudikoff and Steve James and John P. Ryan. Um, it's a canon take on the most dangerous game, but it's enjoyable. It's really entertaining. Like one of Michael Dudikoff's better movies, where he goes up against this mysterious organization called the Pentangle, and they start hunting Michael Dudikoff's character Matt Hunter. And if you like canon action movies, it's definitely one that I would recommend. The next one I have on my list is Bad Dreams by Andrew Fleming. This film was, in my opinion, unfairly judged as a Nightmare on Elm Street clone, when I feel it's definitely more of its own thing. I don't think it's just Richard Lynch trying to be Freddy Krueger. And I can get why people saw it as such because Jennifer Rubin is in it, and she was in one of the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels. But I think that Bad Dreams is much more than just your average Nightmare on Elm Street knockoff. I think it's got a compelling plot with the cult that had this whole mass um, killing or self-harming or self-killing thing going on, and you had this leader of the cult who is played by Richard Lynch, and one of the members of the cult survived, and then she's stalked by the past, and I liked how it played around with dreams and reality, and got some good performances by Richard Lynch and Jennifer Rubin, and I liked how Andrew Fleming directed the movie. So yeah, I do like Bad Dreams. Um, yeah, Bad Dreams it does have a Blu-ray. I have it on Blu-ray as well. I have it on DVD too. I have the Blu-ray from 88 Films, and I don't have the Scream Factory double feature with Visiting Hours though. Yeah, Drew, I agree with that. That's one of the things about Avenging Force that I wasn't too big on. Like they didn't need to kill off Steve James's character. Yeah, it is. It's pretty intense for a canon film. Night of the Dick. I mean, Night of the Demon. I don't know if I would say it's underrated, but it's a film that I can definitely have some fun with. Return of the Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Biollante. Return of Godzilla, which is also known, I believe, as Godzilla 1985. That was actually the first Godzilla movie I saw. Saw that on VHS. No, Davey, I have not seen Offerings yet, but I do remember when I found it on VHS. I walked to this thrift store when I was living in Oklahoma City with my dad for a couple years. And when I was living over there and I was finding VHS tapes, this was at the time when horror tapes in particular had not gone super mainstream. So you could go to a thrift store and you could find horror tapes for like dirt cheap. So I remember like digging through a bin of like tapes, and Offerings was one of the tapes in there. So I do remember that being pretty cool. I was like, "Oh, I've never heard of this movie," and then I was like, "Oh, it's kind of like Halloween. All right, sounds like it might be a interesting or potentially entertaining movie." I didn't really watch it. Haven't watched it yet, but yeah, that's back in the day when you could really go out there and get some good deals on stuff. Not anymore. The next film I have on my list is Bat 21, which is a war drama directed by Peter Markle, and I put this on my list because of two things: Gene Hackman and Danny Glover. I think the two of them do a great job. I think they have some really good performances in this one, and in a lot of ways, it's a survival film because you have this guy named Lieutenant Colonel Ham. He's weapons countermeasures expert. His aircraft gets shot behind enemy lines, and he winds up working together with this reconnaissance pilot named Captain Bartholomew Clark, and they work together to create like an escape route so Gene Hackman can can get to safety. And it's a simple plot, but it's well executed, and it's got some genuinely tense moments, and I think it's a good character piece with two good performances by the two leads. So yeah, Bat 21. The next one I have on my list is a really underrated, overlooked thriller called The Bedroom Window, directed by Curtis Hanson, from 1987. This one stars Steve Guttenberg. Yes, the Goot. Steve Guttenberg from Police Academy and Short Circuit and so on. Uh, yeah, Predator. That this is my letterbox list. Um, and The Bedroom Window is one of those films. So I didn't know much about it. I found it for like cheap on VHS like years ago. Blind buy. Watched it one night, and I was really intrigued by it because it was really cool to see Steve Guttenberg in this kind of film because he wasn't really known for doing serious roles. He was more of like the comedy guy. And I thought he pulled it off really well. And Elizabeth McGovern was also good in it in a bit role, not really a bit role, in a supporting role, as well as Isabelle Huppert. And got Mari Chaykin, who's been in a lot of stuff. He was also in this. Wallace Shawn. And I thought it was a pretty good, like, Hitchcockian kind of, thriller. Um, so if you like those kind of Hitchcockian thrillers about, oh, somebody sees a murder next door, I would recommend it. I definitely would. Hey, I mean, you're not alone. There's a lot of people who only remember, Gutenberg from, Police Academy. If you like her, then you should definitely check out The Bedroom Window. So The Bedroom Window. Next one I have on my list is The Believers, which was also released in 1987, directed by John Schlesinger. Uh, really enjoy this thriller. I think it's creepy, deals with voodoo. It's not the most realistic, but that's beside the point. That's really not necessarily what I'm looking for out of a movie. It's an intense film with a good central performance by Martin Sheen. Good supporting performances by Helen Shaver, Harley Cross, and Robert Loggia. Richard Masur also has a bit role in it, as well as Jimmy Smits. And it deals with this police psychologist named Cal, who, after a shocking early sequence when his wife dies in a tragic accident, he moves to New York with his young son, and he gets drawn into this just series of bizarre ritualistic murders that are tied into voodoo. So yeah, I definitely would recommend that one. Good score too for that film. I think it's J. Peter Robinson who did the score for it. So yeah, The Believers. Then I have a dramatic thriller from 1988 called Betrayed, directed by Costas Gavras. And this one stars Deborah Winger, Tom Berenger, John Hurd, Jeffrey Dumont, John Mahoney, Ted Levine is also in it. And it deals with this FBI agent who goes undercover, played by Deborah Winger, to infiltrate this group of racist, I think it's like paramilitary, like this racist paramilitary, like white supremacist group. And I thought it did a really good job showcasing the various different sides of racism in America and how it starts at a young age and how there's a lot of different layers to it. And I thought it was pretty compelling. I really did. I thought it was a compelling drama with some good performances, despite some really heavy subject matter. Um Next one I have on the list is Blind Fury, directed by Philip Noyce, which also starred Rucker Hauer, Terry O'Quinn, Lisa Blount's in it, Brandon Call, Randall Tex Cobb, Meg Foster, Sho Kosugi. Uh, really enjoyable, fun action movie. Um, really like that one, Blind Fury. So just waiting for the chat to kind of trying to catch up to the chat a little bit. I might be going too fast. I know I slowed the chat down a little bit on purpose so I don't have to deal with um extra people that show up and kind of mess around with things. Um I'm wondering if I slowed it down too much. Um, but yeah, The Hitcher is very underrated for sure. That's actually on my list. But yeah, Blind Fury, fun action movie. Rutger Hauer is a blind Vietnam vet who was trained as a sword fighter. He gets involved with this bit of craziness, and it turns into just a fun action movie with a blind swordsman just kicking all kinds of ass. The ending, I swear to God, George Lucas ripped that off for Phantom Menace because it just seems like something that it's too similar to be anything otherwise. Because the guy gets like cut in half and then he falls down a shaft. um, how do I think the new Blade Runner from a few years back stacks up to the original? I like Blade Runner 2049. I don't really know if I would say that it's better than the first or uh not necessarily as good as the for me personally. Like I really like Blade Runner. It's a film that became like a slow burn movie for me because initially I wasn't big on the movie, but then I saw it more and I really started to enjoy it. So I would say Blade Runner 2049, it's a visually breathtaking film. It's got a really good score and a lot of other good elements, and I like the story. But I, I'm just, I would say I do like the first film more, but I think it stacks up fairly well to the first movie for me personally. I wouldn't put Raw Deal on there because that's honestly one of my least favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Probably not. The movie didn't really do much of anything, so it's probably just considered a one-off. Um, Next one I have on the list is the Blob remake. I mean, I think you pissed it off. One of my all-time favorite films. I remember watching this for like the first time. I checked it out from the library, and I think it was one of those things where I was curious about it because of the fact that it was another horror remake, and I'd already seen The Thing and The Fly, and I was really big fan of those. And I saw the Blob remake, and I instantly became a fan of it. And ever since, it's been one of my favorite films, one of my favorite horror movies. To me, it's the last film in what I consider to be the holy trinity of 80s horror remakes. And saw that in the theater last year in October in 35 millimeter with a packed crowd. And it was a blast. It was really cool. It was really a lot of fun to see it with a wide, just large audience and group of people. And it's a film that is over the top, but it's insanely entertaining. It's got a great amount of gore, and it's a really good popcorn horror movie. That's a really good way to sum it up. It did. It did a flop, and it sucks. I don't know. It just seemed like one of those things where I guess it just wasn't the right mix for people back then. I don't know what it was. I mean, the only film in that trinity that was successful in the box office was the Fly remake, because the Thing remake bombed, and so did the Blob. Jason, I like Apology with Peter Weller, but I don't love it enough to put it on a list like this. But it is an interesting movie and definitely worth a watch if you're a fan of Peter Weller. Yes, there is truth that there is absolutely truth to Aliens coming to 4K this year. I heard it from an inside source, so that there's some genuine smoke behind that fire, so to speak, for another release of Aliens. I don't know if specifically for Alien Day, but I know that it's pretty likely. Um, yeah, the Blob is underrated. It's definitely the best out of all of those movies, out of all of the Blob films. Next up, I have another underrated horror movie from the same year, Brain Damage, directed by Frank Henenlotter. One of my favorite directors. Just such a crazy, weird gonzo director. The films that he did were just unquestionably unique and unlike anything that you've seen before, for better or worse. And this is definitely one of my favorites of his. You have this just normal guy who lives in New York. He then gets addicted to this thing called Alimer, which is like this. It looks like a slug or something with like a brain on top and teeth, and he gets addicted to the thing, just attaching itself to his head and just injecting him with all these fluids that like make him high. And it's like the craziest drug trip movie ever. Like I really, really like this film. I remember when I first saw it, I was like, "This is insane," and I still feel that way about Brain Damage. Definitely recommend that one if you like crazy over the top gonzo nuts movies. Brain Damage. Next one I have on this list is from 1989. It's directed by Bill Forsyth. It's called Breaking In. It's a drama starring Burt Reynolds and Casey Simasco. It's a small film. It doesn't deal with a lot of big stuff, but I think it's got a good heart to it, and I like the dynamic between Burt and Casey. Uh, Burt plays this professional thief named Ernie who takes this guy named Mike on as an apprentice, and interesting stuff happens. Um, Maybe interesting isn't the right word, but they build their relationship, their connection throughout the film. Casey learns from Bert, and it's a small film, but I think it's effective. And I also feel it's a movie that I'm a bit nostalgic for because it's one of the first films I remember watching on TV for some reason. Like I was really young and I flipped through the channels and it was on and I watched it all the way through because I guess the plot interested me enough. Um, but yeah, Breaking In. Yeah, Brain Damage is great. Yeah, it's a fun one. Yeah, Davey, there are 3 Blob movies. There's the original Blob with Steve McQueen, then there's the sequel called Beware the Blob, which is really bad, and then there is the remake. In fact, just talking about Beware the Blob just made my nose run. Huh, there's a new rap group that sampled the Brain Damage thing? That's pretty cool. That's pretty sick. Gotta be honest, that's pretty nice. I did a music video tribute to that film years ago with White Lines by Duran Duran. It really fits that film so well. The next film I have on my list is Cameron's Closet, directed by Armand Mastroianni. I've already reviewed this movie on my channel. It stars Cotter Smith, Mel Harris, Scott Curtis, Chuck McCann, Lane McCloskey. You also have Tab Hunter in a little role. I guess William Lustig has a cameo. And I know the film's got a lot of crap for its effects. People say it's cheesy, and I can get that. But I just like the plot. I like it for the heart that it has between, what's going on with Cotter Smith and the kid. I definitely did sympathize with the kid. I thought it was creative, especially for a lower budget in terms of this what it does with dreams and the demon from hell that's living in the closet. I think it's got a good score as well. And got some surprisingly, intense, just creepy moments in it. The whole scene in the closet where one of the characters is possessed and has this really just disturbing grin on his face. Um, and yeah, for a horror movie, I thought it had some effective moments of horror. Um, yeah, its bad effects don't necessarily make a bad film. That's true. It really is for sure. Uh, Thoughts on High Risk? I actually did watch that a few months ago. Not for I didn't really care for it. I gotta be honest, Salvatore. I didn't care for that one. Had some There were some good fights, but I just wasn't really big into the tone of the movie, and it wasn't really strictly like a Jet Li movie. Like he wasn't like I don't remember. I don't think he was actually the star. It was this other guy who I didn't like nearly as much. Um, yeah, Back to School, Ruthless People. Those are good picks. Ruthless People is a fun one. So is Back to School. But yeah, Cameron's Closet I'll recommend if you're into like low budget horror films that are almost like a full length episode of Tales from the Dark Side. Because it really does have that kind of vibe with like a little bit extra gore. Um, Next on my list, I have the film Casualties of War, which is directed by Brian De Palma. This film is a rough watch. Hard to watch movie, but I definitely say it's a film that has a definitive power to it. Some really genuine moments of strength and just impact. Good direction by Brian De Palma. I actually think it's some of his most underrated work. And some really good performances by Michael J. Fox and Sean Penn. And one of the most just intense and just emotionally devastating Vietnam War films, or just war films, period. Where Michael J. Fox plays this soldier who finds himself ostracized inside his own squad when they decide to take advantage of their situation in ways that are just absolutely despicable, to the point where one of their own, played by Sean Penn, just completely loses it and kidnaps this villager and starts taking advantage of her. And they're trying to get Michael J. Fox's character to join in, and he stands his ground and is like, "No, this is wrong. I'm not going to do it." And you get the drama from that, and it's a brutal film. It's really intense, but I definitely do recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Michael J. Fox. It features what might be his best dramatic performance, because it does show that he could do dramatic acting too. So yeah, Casualties of War, really good film. Um, yeah, he is. Yeah, yeah. Sean Penn is amazing in it, and so is Michael J. Fox. Hey there, Bobby. Thank you. Thanks for the super chat. What if superhero action versus horror villain? What's your pick of choice? So like a superhero like action uh star versus like a horror villain? I don't know. I have to think about that one. Like a what if situation? Um, because I know a lot of the horror villains. I don't think like a superhero would be much of a match. But I just think of like thematically, what would be kind of cool. I think something like Swamp Thing going up against the trying to think of what because there's the swamps and you have that environment. Um, Swamp Thing's a very kind of if you read like the Alan Moore comics, there's a lot of nightmarish stuff, so might be kind of interesting to have like a crossover with Swamp Thing on like a Nightmare on Elm Street. Um, but I don't really know. That's such a wide open question. That's one I'm gonna have to think on about for sure. I think it's actually one of the best Vietnam War films for me. I even liked it more than Platoon, but that's just me. At Close Range, that's a good one. I mean, I think that's all right. I'm not as big on that as other people are. But it's also intense. It got some good performances. Fave 80's war movie might be. I'd have to look at the list again. Although I really like Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise. Like that's the film that I show to people who say things like Tom Cruise can't act. I remember I have recommended this film to like multiple people throughout my life who have told me that, and each time they actually get back to me after they've seen the movie. They're like, "I was wrong. Tom Cruise was terrific in that." And he is. He really is. He's really good in Born on the 4th of July. Sorry, just fucking allergies, man. Favorite Brian De Palma movie? I'd have to look at his list of his filmography again. I do like a lot of his movies. Scarface is definitely up there. Oh, thanks, Bread Mater. Are there any films I look forward to this year? Um, that's a good question. Because I kind of need to look at I need to look at a list again because I John Wick, John Wick 4. That's what I look forward to this year off the top of my head. There's probably some other ones, but like I do want to watch Kids versus Aliens. That looks like a fun movie. It's like the Monster Squad sequel that I always wanted to see, but I never got. Um, but that's not. You can just stream that right now. But yeah, Full Metal Jacket. That's a good one too, for sure. The next film I have on my list, though, going back to the whole purpose, the whole setup of this stream, The Changeling, directed by Peter Medak. This is one of my favorite haunted house films. This is one of my favorite films. Period. Love this movie. It's a great example of a slow burn horror film done the right way. See, when I hear a lot of people tell me like, "Oh, you can't handle slow burn horror, and everything has to be fast paced," because I get a lot of people give me shit for not liking a lot of these A24 horror movies, and I come back with, "Well, I love The Changeling, and that's a slow burn horror movie, but it's set up in a way where it grabs you from the beginning, and then it's just consistently engaging and interesting and creepy and just eerie with the score and the direction and just George C. Scott and his performance and Trish Van Devere and just the mystery of everything. It's just really captivating. And yeah, I love The Changeling. Highly recommend that one if any of you who are in the chat haven't seen that one yet. Classic. And yeah, it is underrated. Very underrated. Yeah, I hope John Wick 4 has a lot of action. It probably will, but I am a little leery of that running time. I am. I mean, John Wick Chapter 3 though was really long and I thought that that film was really excited. I mean, exciting. Really excited. The film itself was excited for me to watch it. No. I thought it was really exciting. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I haven't heard of Killers of the Flower Moon. Oppenheimer, maybe. That's another one though where the running time's a little like I don't know. I actually haven't seen Session 9 yet, Predator, so I can't really say if I like it, the Changeling more, but I probably would because I really like the Changeling. Another film that I also enjoy, next film on my list is from 1988. It's called Clean and Sober, directed by Glenn Gordon Caron. This one stars Michael Keaton, Kathy Baker, Morgan Freeman, Claudia Christian. It's a drama about this hotshot real estate salesman named Daryl who has a really bad cocaine habit, and he just is in a bad situation. He stole all his company's money. He wakes up next to this girl who's OD'd. He decides to hide from the police at a rehab facility. And what initially turns out to be something that's just like, oh, whatever, he's just hiding from the cops. It turns into a situation where he is rehabilitating himself. And it's a really good drama with a great performance by Michael Keaton. One of his best acting performances, if you ask me. And it was actually the performance that got him on the radar for Batman because the studio Warner Brothers, and I know Tim Burton, he did Batman, and he already worked with Keaton in Beetlejuice, but really Clean and Sober was the one that made them think, okay, maybe this might work Maybe he might work as Bruce Wayne. Oh, it's Scorsese's next movie with DiCaprio and De Niro. Okay, all right, okay. I'll definitely keep that on my radar. Um, but yeah, if you're a fan of Michael Keaton, yeah, nice fucking model. If you're a fan of Michael Keaton, I definitely would recommend checking out Clean and Sober sometime. For some reason, it doesn't really have the best release. I don't even think it has a Blu-ray, and I don't know if it's streaming or not. Considering it's a film that has a good message about rehab, and I know it was a film that was actually shown in AA. Because I remember talking to somebody that I was acquainted with, I think a family member who went to AA, and they were talking about how, oh yeah, we watched that movie in AA. It's a good movie. But I don't even know if it's streaming, and I know it's not in widescreen on DVD. It's only a full screen release. The next film I have on my list is another film from 1988. 1988, I guess, is a year of a lot of underrated films. Because the next one I have is called Cop. It's directed by James B. Harris. Stars James Woods, Leslie Ann Warren, and Charles Durning. Charles Hayde is also in it, and it deals with this homicide cop played by James Woods who's trying to find the serial killer, and a lot of the people around him don't buy it, don't think that there's a serial killer out there. I think he's just full of it. And he's like, "No, I know this guy's out here and he's on the loose and I'm going to get him. I'm going to catch him and I'm going to stop him." And it's James Woods unhinged, and he does a great job playing these kind of roles. And yeah, I think it's a solid film. Solid film with a good performance with James Woods. Yeah, I know that's what he's remembered for by a lot of people is the Family Guy joke, but to me, I remember him more for just being a good actor in like Videodrome and Cop and Hard Way and so on. Um, Next one I have on my list is a film called Cohen and Tate, directed by Eric Red. It stars Roy Scheider, Adam Baldwin, Harley Cross. Uh, Really fun, engaging thriller where there's this kid who's kidnapped by these two hitmen, and then it turns into this whole sort of thing where these two hitmen wind up just deciding to go against one another, and they get turned against each other, and the results are pretty enjoyable. Yes, he's a great actor. So yeah, Conan and Tate. That's a film that it is definitely one of the more obscure ones. Um, then I have Creature from 1985, uh, directed by William Malone, stars Stan Ivar, Wendy Shaw, Lyman Word, and Klaus Kinski. It's a Alien knockoff. That's really what it is. Complete with some kind of facehuggers that are like mentally controlling people. But I think for Alien knockoff, it's enjoyable. It's got some creepy bits of atmosphere, uh, and some decent performances. I like the design of the creature in it, and I would say as Alien knockoffs go, I would say Creature is probably the best one. So Creature. Then I have Dead Bang, directed by John Frankenheimer. But got another super chat from Bobby. Thank you, Bobby. It's like I really like the New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking. I've heard about that one, but I actually haven't seen it. I do remember seeing like the DVD like a thrift store, and I was thinking about buying it just for curiosity's sake, but the case was empty, so didn't get it. Uh, that's always a bummer when you go to like a thrift store or pawn shop or something. You're like, oh, cool, this movie, this might be interesting, and then you open the case and there's nothing in it. You're like, God damn it. So I guess I'm not getting that one. Or the one or the ones where you open the case, you look at the disc and it's like insanely scratched up. You're like, yeah, nah. What do they do? Play hockey with this thing? Why is it this scratched up? This is ridiculous. So, I feel like Ford Fairlane, Andrew Dice Clay in that movie when his guitar's all scratched up. It's all scratched up. It's all scratched up. Um, but yeah, the next film I have on my list is Dead Bang, like I was saying earlier, directed by John Frankenheimer. This is one of the more underrated, overlooked cop films. Not just from the 80's, but period. Starring Don Johnson. You got Penelope Ann Miller in as well as William Forsythe. And you have this cop named Jerry Beck who's trying to find this guy who killed a cop on Christmas Eve. And then he gets involved in this investigation with all these, white supremacists and crazy jerk offs. And then you know, he's got his own personal demons to deal with and got to stop these neo Nazis. And it's violent. It's action packed. It's got some fun one liners. If you like 80's action, it's definitely something that's worth a watch. And nobody talks about Dead Bang. Like it didn't do well when it came out. I think that's one of those things where Don Johnson, this was going to be the movie where he was going to show that he's a movie star, but it never really worked. And it's unfortunate because he was great in it. He was really good in Dead Bang. Thoughts on Susan stepping down as CEO? Uh, Susan Wojcicki, like, I don't really care. Not if she did anything for me. I was never a big enough YouTuber to ever get any of the kickbacks or any of the positives or even the negatives out of Susan's reign on YouTube. I'm just hoping that somebody that comes in and takes her place is not worse. That's all that I'm hoping for, please. Yeah, Gozer, I've heard that song. It's a classic. I remember the English translated version more though. Yes, yes, it does, Samuel. It does show how to deal with it without being woke. It's a good way to put it. Another one that needs a Blu-ray. Um, then I have Dead Calm, really solid thriller directed by Philip Noyce from 1989, starring Nicole Kidman, Sam Neill, Billy Zane. Um, it's a film that honestly was even under the radar when it came out, and then it was a surprise hit, and you can see why. It's a really good thriller, with this tight claustrophobic setting of this sailboat, and they're on the open sea, and everything's just calm and fine. There's nothing crazy in terms of the weather, but then they bring on board this survivor who at first seems like a guy who might not be, that much of a threat, and then he turns out to be a total psycho. So it's kind of an old concept, but it's executed really well in Dead Calm. Then I have Dead Heat, directed by Mark Goldblatt. Really fun zombie buddy cop action horror movie. Uh, with a lot of creative bits, like a whole scene at a Chinese restaurant where all the meat comes to life. It's like, how do you stop this thing? How about we drown it in A1 sauce? uh, Treat Williams and Joe Piscopo are a really fun pair in this. Lindsay Frost is also good in a bit role, along with Darren McGavin and Vincent Price and Robert Picardo. And Shane Black also has a little role in it. And it's just a fun action comedy. I've always been a fan of Dead Heat ever since I first saw it on VHS. And I even love the tagline, "You can't keep a good cop dead." Uh, really enjoy Dead Heat. Even like the theme song. Good Blu-ray too by Finnegan Syndrome. Good 4K. No, Johnny Handsome's not on the list because I don't like Johnny Handsome. I'm not into that movie. Just couldn't get into it. Uh, But what is on my list is Deadly Friend, directed by Wes Craven. I actually would probably say is one of his most overlooked and underrated films of his filmography is Deadly Friend. Um, this one stars Matthew Laboratoire, Chrissy Swanson, Anne Ramsey. Yeah, it's the one that has that ridiculous death where the Anne Ramsey gets killed with a basketball. But I think there's much more to it than that. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like Megan. I haven't seen Megan yet, but Deadly Friend in a lot of ways is the 80's Megan. So if you like that movie, check out Deadly Friend sometime. Deadly Friend has a really interesting behind the scenes story too, in terms of what Wes wanted to do with the film and what happened when the studio took over. Like that twist ending that I hate, that sucks. That's not even something that Wes had planned. It's something that got set up by the studio. In fact, it's the same guy who's responsible for Cobra getting cut to shreds. So you can blame that guy for the shitty twist ending and Deadly Friend and for the Stallone film Cobra getting cut in terms of all the extra action scenes. Because he wanted to make sure that Cobra was able to be shown in as many theaters as possible. Yeah, it is. It was a very different film. And it was a more of a love story. And I think it was rather effective in its own way. And it would have been cool to have seen what Wes wanted to do with it. Yeah, one of my favorites too. It really surprised me because I remember when I first saw it, I was expecting it to be just cheesy garbage because of what a lot of people have been saying about it, and it really did surprise me. I really liked it. That's why it's on this list. Another film I have on my list is Dolls, a Stuart Gordon film from 1987. This is actually one of the first Scream Factory releases I remember buying. That and From Beyond. In fact, those were the first two Blu-rays, I believe. And Ghost Town was another one. But the first ever Scream Factory release that I got was the DVD of Halloween 3. But Dolls is one of the first Blu-rays I got. And I'm really glad I got that now because if you take a look at the price for Dolls on Blu-ray, it's pretty ridiculous. Um, but yeah, it's a film that I remember. I think I caught it on like TV or whatever, and I thought it was really trippy and out there, and I think I was always drawn to it because I remember seeing the DVD at like a rental store or something, and I remember seeing the cover art with the doll with this half skull face and the eyeballs, and it always creeped me out. And I always wanted to see it. And then I watched it one night and enjoyed it. It's a strange film. You have this girl who gets involved, not really involved, but she winds up tagging along with her parents and these two punk rock guy losers and the salesman. They wind up heading to this mansion in the middle of the night after like a storm, and then they find out a lot of creepy things about the dolls, um, and the truth and the reality behind their doll collection. It's an effective little horror movie with some genuinely creepy scenes in it. Um, I'm gonna try to get through the whole list, but I don't know. It's a pretty long list, so I might not be able to get through the whole list, folks. Might only be able to get through like part of it, and maybe have to do a part two sometime. Um, but Monkey Shines, I like that one. I think that's a good film. I don't know if do I have it on this list? I do. Monkey Shines is on my list, so I'll probably get to that, get to talking about it when I get to that on the that point on the list. Yeah, it is misleading, but that always freaked me out. It really did. It always freaked me out. That fucking monkey. Those symbol monkeys just get me every time. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just how unnatural they look. I don't know what it is. It just taps into some kind of thing for me. It just really just creeps me out. The next film I have on my list is a pretty obscure comedy directed by Steve Barron from 1984 called Electric Dreams. Electric Dreams is a film that definitely doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion. If you like 80's movies, like 80's comedies, with a bit of romance, this is definitely something I think would be up your alley. Stars Lenny Von Dolan. You got Virginia Madsen, Maxwell Caulfield in it. Bud Cort's also in the film, and it deals with this guy named Miles who buys this state of the art computer that starts expressing thoughts and emotions after he spills some champagne on it. Things then get out of hand, and then uh Miles and this computer, they both fall in love with this neighbor. So this human is competing with this computer for the affection of this woman. And I think it's a really fun concept. It's definitely something that I think you'll get a kick out of if you like stuff like weird science. And it has a really good soundtrack. And it never was released on DVD in the US, if I remember correctly. It was only on VHS. It got a Blu-ray overseas, but it's region B, so it's region locked. And I don't know if it's streaming. So yeah, Electric Dreams is like one of those films that like not talked about that much. And I think that's too bad because I think it's a good one. Hey there, Total Meltdown. Hi. Um, I don't know if there's really much I can add to those lists, but maybe. I don't think so because I actually haven't seen that film yet. So I can't really necessarily put it on a list if I haven't seen the movie yet. Um, but speaking of the list, next film is Enemy Mine from 1985. So Enemy Mine, in my opinion, is a pretty underrated sci-fi film directed by Wolfgang Peterson. Starts Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. Brian James is also in the movie, and deals with this soldier who crash lands on this alien planet, and he encounters this other survivor, but the survivor is from this enemy species that he was fighting, and eventually they band together and they learn to coexist with one another, and it's a good movie with a good message, a good heart to it. There are some things that are kind of hit and miss of the script, but overall, I do like the movie. I think it's got a pretty good score as well. Yeah, I like Dragonheart, but I would say I prefer Enemy Mine more when it comes to Dennis Quaid films. Um, Still need to see Frequency, but yeah, Enemy Mine is a film that I would definitely recommend if you're a fan of like 80s sci-fi. There's a film that I don't have on the list that I wish I would have put on here. Maybe it's because it got a TV show, and maybe I felt that because it got a TV show, that means that it's not that underrated. But uh, I'm just gonna say it right now: Alien Nation, the film uh, that stars James Caan, that that was the inspiration for the TV series. Because for a lot of people, like the TV series, they remember more than the actual movie. I think it's a really good sci-fi thriller, Alienation. Another one that I don't even think has a Blu-ray in the US, which is ridiculous to me. The next film I have on my list is Extreme Prejudice, directed by Walter Hill. One of his most underrated films, in my opinion. Really good action thriller with a just crazy plot with this group of military guys who are considered to be dead, but they're clearly very alive, and they are employed by this narcotics kingpin, and they head up against this Texas Ranger played by Nick Nolte. So you have Nick Nolte versus Powers Booth. And you also have Michael Ironside, Maria Conchita Alonso, Rip Torn, Clancy Brown, William Forsythe. Uh, so really slick, well directed, violent as hell action movie. Yeah, it does. The climax is very similar to The Wild Bunch. Um, Next one I have on my list is Fade to Black, which I think is a really overlooked, dramatic horror movie because it's not your typical horror film. In a lot of ways, it's this character piece of this film buff, played by Dennis Christopher, who snaps and just starts killing everybody. And he does it in various ways that are inspired by classic films that he's a big fan of from back in the day. Sorry about having to constantly do this. Allergies are a bitch. They really are. Fucking suck. But yeah, Eric Binford, that was the character's name, played by Dennis Christopher. And he stalks this woman who looks a lot like Marilyn Monroe, whom he's really into because he has a crush on Marilyn Monroe, and it's not your typical horror film. I can see why some people aren't really into the movie for that reason, but I've always been a fan of it. I think it's got good performance with Dennis Christopher, and it's got a nice love of the movies. It definitely does come across with the script and how it plays out in the movie. Um, Next one I have on my list after Fade to Black is a drama called Fat Man and Little Boy. I actually saw this drama in high school of all places. Like we watched it in a history class because this is actually the film that was about Oppenheimer and the team that created the atom bomb prior to the new Oppenheimer that's coming out. And yeah, it deals with General Leslie Groves and him trying to set up the project for the atom bomb, him selecting Oppenheimer, and the conflicts between Groves and Oppenheimer, and the creation of the atom bomb. And this one stars Paul Newman, Dwight Schultz, Bonnie Bedelia, John Cusack, Laura Dern. John C. McGinley's also in it. And I definitely don't feel that one is talked about enough. Fat Man and Little Boy. I think it's a fun isn't the right word. It's a good drama. It's a fine, solid drama about a real life creation of such a destructive thing in the atom bomb. But I let's see here. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna let like the chat catch up a little bit, and I'm gonna take a break for a second, but I'll be back. I take care of these allergies real quick. All right. Oh yeah, yeah. It was from the same people that did the Killing Fields. I don't know what to say about the Ruby Ridge movie, Jedi. So yeah, Fat Man and Little Boy. I would recommend that one if you're curious about that Oppenheimer story, want to see maybe a different take on it than what Nolan's upcoming film is going to be. Um no, Gozer, I haven't seen that documentary yet. It's actually one that I will check out though because it's going to be one of the films that I do have on my list to review. Um Worst movie that I own on DVD, Attack Force. I do have that on DVD. I got so many, I can't really say that much, to be honest. What movies are you looking forward to seeing? I mean, it depends. Depends on what kinda, what genre, what kind of film you're talking about. Um, that's one I definitely have to think on for a bit, and get back to, some other time. But, yeah, Fat Man and Little Boy, pretty pretty interesting drama. Yeah. If you enjoy World War II history, definitely would recommend that one. Uh, Next one I have on my list is Firstborn. Uh, really overlooked drama, directed by Michael Apted. Deals with this kid named Jake, played by Christopher Collette. His parents divorced. His mom starts seeing this strange guy named Sam, played by Peter Weller, who just seems sketchy. And you definitely find out that that's absolutely the case. And this is Jake fighting for his family, fighting for his mom, fighting for his brother, and it's some genuinely solid and good stuff. I think it's a good drama. Some good performances by Colette and Weller, and even Terry Gard plays the mom. Robert Downey Jr. is also in a little role along with Sarah Jessica Parker. And I think it's like one of Corey Haim's first acting roles is in Firstborn. So yeah, really like Firstborn. Good soundtrack too. Thoughts on the trailer for 65? I like the trailer for it. I like the idea of science fiction, futuristic tech versus dinosaurs. I'm not 100% sold on Adam Driver being the lead, but I don't know. What are exactly my thoughts about Red Dawn? I think it's a good movie. It's a good uh action film when it needs to be. It's a good what if kind of horror scenario when it needs to be too, dealing with the Cold War and what would happen if Russia did attack the US. I definitely think it's a hell of a lot better than the remake, that's for sure. Um how well do I know Matt Rambaraff? Pretty well. We go a while back. We go a long ways back. In fact, he's actually the inspiration for me even starting this channel in the first place. So I'm forever grateful to him for that because we were chatting, on Skype and stuff like that long before I started making videos. And first time we really came across one another is in this podcast called Fight Runner. And Matt and I seem to kind of, we had some chemistry in the podcast, and so kind of decided to keep in contact. And I think even prior to the podcast, I think we were kind of chatting a little bit because I liked his tribute videos on his YouTube channel, and I was inspired to make my own little videos. And then I remember watching his reviews that he did, like the rant on Jaws 4, and then I expressed interest in maybe doing some videos of my own. And I was very leery of that because I was very shy and didn't really have a lot of confidence in myself or in my capabilities. And and I wasn't really sure if I wanted to put myself out there like that and do YouTube videos. And Matt, he said, go for it. It said the right words, and here I am. So it's one of those things where that's something that really means a lot to me, and there are no words to really express how much his encouragement means to me. When it comes to that moment, because I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing this live stream. Wouldn't be doing a lot of this stuff if it wasn't for Matt. We weren't friends at school. We got to know each other online through YouTube. Um, but yeah, next film on my list is The Fly 2, directed by Chris Walas, who I actually met in person. I met Chris Walas in person at a screening of the Fly remake and shook his hand. He's got his autograph. And I told him in person that I thought he did a great job directing this, and he was very appreciative of that. Because he did. Chris Walas did a really good job directing this film. In fact, when it comes to all of the makeup effects artists who have come in and like directed a movie for the first time, I would say Chris Walas is the most successful one to make that transition. And I think The Fly 2 is incredibly underrated. No, the love story isn't as effective as the first film, but it's one hell of a fun monster movie with some really good gore and practical effects. Good score as well by Christopher Young, and just a crazy, insane plot. And I thought the performance of Eric Stoltz and Daphne Zuniga and Lee Richardson were good, and just the effects. I just love the design of the Martin Fly, and it's just a really crowd pleasing sequel that deserves way, way more appreciation than it gets. Like, it got bad reviews when it came out. A lot of people talking about how The Fly 2 is just crap, it sucks, and this and that. And I don't agree with that at all. It even has some of the most heart wrenching scenes that you'll ever see in any movie. Like the scene where he has to put his dog down after he found his dog all mutated. Like, that's one of the most just tragic scenes you will ever see in anything. And I just love the fact that the end of the movie is a rare instance where the monster, the villain, is the hero. Like, how often does that happen? So that's another thing that I feel The Fly 2 has going for it that a lot of people don't talk about. So, and that was actually the first review I ever did, I believe, was on The Fly 2, because I was that passionate about the sequel at the time, and I still am. And that review is no longer around because I recorded it with like an old video camera, and I had to delete the video due to copyright years ago. But yeah, my first videos, I recorded them with an old camcorder and then converted the VHS to digital. Seriously, that's how I recorded my old videos back in the day. These allergies just keep coming back. Thoughts on Critical Drinker? I like him. I'm not. See, here's the thing. I used to be a really big fan of his when he was just kind of starting out. Now he's like become really mainstream and really popular, and it just seems like he's kind of just doing some things just for the sake of getting clicks and maintaining whatever audience that he has. So some of his content doesn't feel necessarily as honest as it used to be. It almost seems like he's just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna rag on this and I'm gonna go say this specific thing about the message because that's what the audience wants me to do. And I just I'm not a big fan of that. Also, I don't really. I know he had the right idea in mind when he said I'm not doing any more Picard videos. I'm not doing any more of these TV show reviews of the Star Trek series. But I thought his reasoning was kind of lame. Like, oh, I'm not going to waste my time with this. And I'm like, well, it's kind of your job. Like, that's, if I was in the same situation, like, even if it's something that I don't like, I would just, I would just power through and I'd do the video. That's for sure. Yeah, he's right. He's got his opinions. He's different. He's got different opinions than people do and than I do. That's fine. But there are some times where, you know, yeah, I didn't care for him dismissing Tremors 2, and I definitely didn't like his take on Willow. Like he did a video on the Willow TV series, and he acted like Willow was some kind of bottom of the barrel movie from the 80's, and I definitely don't agree with that at all. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, you feel like James Spader from Stargate. Um, Burglar, I'm not too big on. Like, I didn't watch it as like a time waster, but I'm not really a huge fan of that. Yeah, I'm picking up Dr. Giggles coming out in March. Which why the fuck do I not have Dr. Giggles on this list? I just realized that I don't have Dr. Giggles on here. Should be. I'm gonna put it on this. I'm gonna edit it right now. I'm gonna put Dr. Giggles on this list. Really fun slasher with Larry Drake, the late great Larry Drake. Definitely a ridiculous movie, but the ridiculousness is entertaining. That's for damn sure. Yeah, I'm adding Dr. Giggles. Really excited that's getting a Blu-ray finally. I mean, it had a Blu-ray before, but it was bare bones and not really the best transfer. But the Scream Factory release as a 2K restoration, probably gonna have the proper aspect ratio, and it's gonna have some features. So there's a bonus. So there we go, Dr. Giggles. Just added it to the list. Oh yeah, it is 90's, not 80's. Sorry, I am such a no wonder I didn't have it on the list. It's such an 80's movie though. Like if you think about it, it's such an 80's horror film. What do I mean when I call a film a time waster? Yeah, I just think it's okay. That's what I mean by that. I didn't like how he backtracked on Prey. Going back to Critical Drinker, yeah, kind of feel the same way. Oh, the Skin Hive situation. It's still here. It's still here. It hasn't gone away yet. I actually went to the allergist about it, and it's a mild case compared to other people. But yeah, I don't take Zyrtec because I heard it's a bitch to get off of, so I just do Allegra. Um, I am really far into the list for the most part. Like I don't know, make almost halfway through, maybe. Well, not really. Getting there. Um, I think I might. Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna take a break on the list though, because I'm just gonna make this like a quick sort of 2 hour stream. Because and I have to keep messing with my fucking nose and shit because of fucking allergies and whatever. Um, yeah, man, Predator, it's a bitch to deal with. Work 2 jobs on top of that, and then I have to deal with the side effects of drug haze and whatever. And the allergist actually told me to go on 2 pills, 2 allergy pills a day. For like 2 to 4 weeks, and then try to go back down to one, and then maybe one every other day, and then try to taper off. So I don't know. She said that it's something that's it's not going to be there forever, but it might be a while longer to get better. But is what it is. Uh, yeah, they did put that out. I have the DVD. DVD is probably not the best quality, so definitely could use an upgrade. What 3 hour movies? Titanic. Is that 3 hours? I know I had like a 2 tape VHS set when it came out. Um, Pretty damn close to 3 hours. Uh, I don't know. I don't really know about maybe Kingdom of Heaven, but I fell asleep for that movie like twice, so I don't know what to say. Oh, I like that one too. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is a cult classic. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Uh, Great Blu-ray from Arrow Video. Guyver 2 is better CGI than any of the Marvel. I really like Guyver 2, but I'm not gonna go that far. Speaking of Guyver, though, I did hear something that Unearthed Films, I think that's who it is. I think that's the company that's doing it. One of these companies on these boutique labels, they're doing a Guyver 4K of the first movie. And I'm like, I do have nostalgia for that film, but give me Guyver 2. Give me an official release of Guyver 2 on Blu-ray. Please. I don't need the first film released a million times because the first film's kind of lame. Oh, I'm not saying that a critical drinker is bad. Like I still watch a decent amount of his content. I'm just not as big on some of his videos as I might have been in the past. It's just like he's kind of leaning into the narrative a little too much. Yeah, it is. Dr. Giggles is an underrated classic. Yeah, the Dark Horse series wasn't bad. I have that actually. It is fun. It's a fun little comic series. Yeah, it may have given me allergies like Halloween Ends. That actually turned into a nasty ass sinus infection after Halloween Ends. So I'm hoping this is not a repeat. I do not need to be knocked out and miss days of work again because of a fucking sinus infection. It's like what happened with Halloween Ends. Like after I was done with that video, I was sick as a dog, and I missed days of work, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" I took a COVID test. It was not COVID, and so I'm like, "What the hell? Why?" And yeah, that sucked. Do not want a repeat of that at all. What exactly do I think about Firestarter? It's fine. It would have been a lot better if John Carpenter directed it, but he was essentially forced out of the film because of the lack of success of the Thing remake when it came out. But that led to him doing Christine, so it's kind of a win, kind of a win for me. Uh, yeah, are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about Dead Space. I was like, wait a second. Firestarter remake doesn't have bullet sponge enemies, which I did see the Firestarter remake, by the way. That is an incredibly generic movie. What do I think of Edward Scissorhands? Is a classic. I like that film. It's a really good example of like gothic dark beauty. Some gorgeous scenes and cinematography in that film. Yeah, I mean, I do like some of Critical Drinker's latest content for sure. Uh, yeah, Street Smart is on it. Yeah, they were really good in it. Christopher Reeve, Morgan Freeman, and that's the film that Chris Reeve financed through Canon by doing Superman 4. So Superman 4 Quest for Peace is a shitty sequel and a bad movie, but it led to Street Smart being made. So kind of a positive. Yeah, he made great films. Doesn't make great films anymore, but he made great films. I will say the last good film that I could think of that he did that I liked and had reminded me a bit of that visual style was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Thoughts on Shazam? It's okay. It's there. Tim Burton's masterpiece. Hey, he did a lot of good movies, and Edward Scissorhands is one of them. Interview with the Vampire the Crow, which 1994 film. I really like both, but probably go with the Crow. Liam, Monster Squad is my jam. I love that movie. One of the first horror films I remember ever watching because it was PG-13, and so my parents would let me watch it. I watched that film all the time. I would rent it every time at the rental store. Um, with along with that and Howard the Duck, it would almost be to the point where like every time I would like rent it and I like would watch it with my parents, they'd be like, "Oh, the Monster Squad again? Really?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm gonna rock it till I drop." But yeah, I love the Monster Squad. It's the first. I actually remember it being the first DVD I bought with my own money. Like I went and walked to a local uh store and got it on DVD, the Lionsgate 2 disc special edition, because I was such a big fan of that film. So yeah, huge fan of the Monster Squad. One of my favorite films. I can't say anything about Princess of the Frog because I've never seen it. Sleepy Hollow, that's a good one too. I actually did a little write up on that film for a film class. Wrote an essay and got an A. Um, Probably gonna take a few more questions and then I'll probably end the stream pretty soon. Um, Before my brain starts leaking out of my nose. James Gunn's plans for DC. Yeah, I know, but that's kind of how I feel about Marvel right now. So I don't really think the idea of starting from scratch is a bad idea. I think it's actually a good idea in theory, considering what's going on with DC right now. But it's one of those things I just need to wait and see something. I need to see a trailer. I need to see something of any kind of substance before I really say much about that. Hey there. Oh man, like I hope you're able to stay cool somehow over there. Yeah, I know. Like it's very. Sometimes I tend to kind of maybe I forget. I forget that it's very different in terms of the seasons in other parts of the world. Because I remember seeing posts from people in the UK like, "Oh, I can't wait for the heat to stop and fall to start," and I'm like, "I'm still waiting for spring to officially start." But that's because I'm in the US. It's a very different situation. But yeah, I hope you're able to stop suffering. That sounds rough. Um, yeah, I've seen Hardware. This is what you want. This is what you get. Dun dun. Uh, I like Hardware. What is my opinion on Metropolis entering the public domain? Interesting. I mean, if at least there's some interesting takes on Metropolis, I think that might be a positive. I mean, I like the recut version of it that was made in the 80's. Thoughts of Splash Mountain being changed? It's bullshit. That's my thoughts on that. What a bunch of nonsense. The characters of Splash Mountain are offensive because of their connotation in Song of the South. A film that Disney's buried so much that your average person who goes to the park probably doesn't even know it even exists. Probably a lot of people who go to Disney and go to Splash Mountain and we're just like, oh, what? Song of the South? That's a Disney movie? Never seen it before. Just an extreme reaction and just another example of just ridiculous political correctness. Like how many people out there were complaining about Brer Rabbit and those other characters in the ride itself? Nonsense. Ever heard of Sam Hyde? The guy, yeah, the guy who did like a sketch comedy show on Adult Swim. I think there was this whole drama with him and what's his name? He's a YouTuber. Just did a boxing show. God, why the fuck am I not able to come up? I've subscribed to this guy. Yeah, I've watched his content. I know he did that series called Content Cop. For some reason, I can't remember his fucking name. Um, It'll probably pop in my head later. Thoughts if I know what you did last summer. Eh. Brave Wilderness. I've never seen it, but thank you, Bobby, for uh another request. I mean another super chat. Will I continue the rest of the list another stream? Yeah, that's the plan for sure. There we go. iDubbbz. Thank you. I don't know why. I don't know why I was not able to remember him. Remember the name. Yeah, Wolfman's got nards. Yeah, I'm not so sure about what's, so racist about Song of the South either myself. I guess it's because of the content, the fact it deals with an African American who's a slave in the South. I guess that's why. Um, I do like Police Academy. I Citizens on Patrol. Which one is that? Is that the third one or the fourth one? Like, I can watch like the first four Police Academy films, but anything after that is pretty bad. Um, hey there, Brett. Thank you. Yeah, that was a sad sack of shit and an excuse for a movie for sure. 100%. The Alien 3 of comedy sequels. Um, yeah, I do like Night of the Comet. I like it. I like it enough that I've listened to the soundtrack like countless times, so I actually have parts of the soundtrack just constantly on a loop in my head. The whole world is celebrating. Yeah. uh Really enjoy that movie. Clerks 3 or Twisted Pair? In terms of which one is worse? Well, I mean, Twisted Pair is Neil Breen, and fuck Neil Breen. He's a hack. His films are cringe. But at least that's like his own separate cringe that really doesn't do any damage to anything that was good because it was already shit to begin with. So I would say Clerks 3 is worse. Yeah, Police Academy 4. Yeah, that's fun. It's a fun one. Wolf or Mary Shelley's Frankenstein? Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Yeah, I would say Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The X-Files. Yeah, I haven't seen the new seasons, but I've heard a lot of bad things about him. I need to rewatch that whole show. Um, I only have seen like a handful of episodes, but one in particular really scared the shit out of me and stuck with me for years, and still sticks with me, and still can give me some sleepless nights. Just thinking about it. It's the one with like the suck face monster, whatever. I forgot. Fluke Man. I forgot the name of it, the episode, but it dealt with the Fluke Man monster. I saw that late one night in Fox when I was hanging out with my dad on the weekend, and like that scared the shit out of me. I was too young to be seeing that shit. I don't even think I slept that night. So yeah, I do need to check out the X Files. I have the Blu-ray set, which is now out of print. Crazy enough, right? Good thing I got it when I did. Uh, yeah, I'm not as big on iDubbbz as I used to be anyway. He's he's definitely one of those creators that yeah, he kind of did get cut, but at the same time, it just seems like he feels like he's grown out of what he used to do. One of those things where he's kind of like, oh, I'm too cool for this now, so now he just boxes. And his boxing show, Creator Clash, is fun. He's doing another one. It's for a good cause, but I don't know. I just kind of miss the old days of iDubbbz, and he's just, you know, playing the fool and just doing reactions to like Kickstart scams and stuff. Hey there, Louise. Um, So yeah, I'm just gonna be on for like about 10 more minutes or so, give or take. So feel free to throw in some last questions. Um, Mainly because I got some stuff that I gotta get done or try to get done before I head to bed tonight. So yeah, the contact cop videos were fun too. The Leafy was here one is one that I remember. It's got no chin. Uh, yeah, classic episode flip man. First 4 seasons. X Files is so revolutionary back in the day. Like it got away with a insane amount of shit. Uh, for the time, like in terms of subject material and like violence and stuff like that. It was insane that it got away with as much as it did on live television back in the 90s. Best and worst Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia looks. Best Luke Skywalker look for me is Luke in all black in Return of the Jedi. Worst Skywalker look is definitely old hermit Luke from the Last Jedi. Han Solo kind of looks the same and everything, right? So I'd say like the best look is Han in the original trilogy, and the worst is Han in the last in the Force Awakens. Princess Leia, it's the same thing. But I would say my favorite look of hers is actually Princess Leia in the first movie in Star Wars. And then the worst Leia look for me is, you know, The Last Jedi again. Um do I think Arrow Video release RoboCop 2? Probably not. It'd be cool, but probably not. I think the best you're gonna get is the Scream Factory release, which is pretty good. Um, what movies do I want to see Arrow Video release? Jacob's Ladder in 4K, please. Well, that's one of the biggest ones for me. Is Jacob's Ladder 4K release by Arrow Video. The film deserves it. It deserves that treatment, if you ask me. I also would love to see them do Short Circuit. I think that'd be fun. It'd be nice to get a new release of that. It's an 80's classic that I mean, the sequel got a special edition from 88 Films with all the bells and whistles, but not much in terms of features, but a poster and all this other stuff. Um, so yeah, I would say that a wild card would be Terminator 2 or Terminator, like both of those. Because they have releases, but they don't have like the deluxe, you know, limited edition, box set with the book and the essays and the tons of features and the 4K. That 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 would be awesome to see Arrow Video do those 2. And speaking of Terminator, Neopunk has Terminator 2 and Rambo 2. I like Rambo 2, and even though I'm kinda tired of T2 in some ways, in some aspects, I I think I'm gonna go with T2. I think I'm gonna go with T2. Um, Scarface or The Godfather? Scarface. A million times Scarface. Goodfellas or Casino? That one's tough. I really like both. Goodfellas. And like a slight win. Um, yeah, they probably won't. They won't release RoboCop 3. RoboCop Returns. What would I do with the movie? I would adapt The Last Stand. Elements of that. A fair amount of that, to be honest. The Last Stand, which is a comic series that I think it was based on a script for RoboCop 3, and that wasn't used or a treatment by Frank Miller. So that's what I would do. I would just adapt The Last Stand. Hey there, Ryan. Oh, the Burning Zone. Yeah, no, I don't remember it, but I do remember reading about it, and I'm curious about that. But like you can't find the entire series anywhere. Like it's not streaming. I don't even think it even got a DVD release. So yeah, I'd like to watch the Burning Zone, but there's no zone I can find where I can watch the thing. Aliens or Terminator 2? Aliens. I don't know. I mean, they didn't show any real gameplay footage, so I don't really know what to say about that. Yeah, I do have Cobra on Blu-ray. I have the collector's edition. No slip cover. I'm not mixed on T2. It's just one of those things where T2 is one of those movies where it feels like I've already watched it before I decide to watch it again because it's been kind of played out so much in pop culture and on TV for years. But I do really enjoy it. I really like First Blood. That'll probably be my second favorite Rambo movie, but I know you're gonna disagree with me, and I know a lot of people will, but my favorite Rambo film was Rambo 3. It's the Lawrence of Arabia of 80's over the top action movies. Like it's the kind of action film you will never see again because of its size, its scope, and everything. Um yeah, speaking of that, the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. Yeah, there is a 4K set that's gonna be coming out, and there's like a steelbook limited edition, which is just insanely expensive. I mean, I looked it up like in Amazon UK. You convert the pounds to dollars, and like the steelbook set for like the first four Superman movies in 4K is like almost $200 to import to the US. I'm like, that is ridiculous. I'm not paying nearly $200 for Superman 1 through 4. I'm just not doing it. Like, what the hell is that price tag? That's ridiculous. It's insanity. Um, I'll buy the regular box set when it comes out though, because I want to see the new transfers of Superman 2, 3, and the first movie. Um, but I'm not spending that much for the Superman Steelbook set. Fuck that. $200? Get the out of here. Um, speaking of importing, Zavi UK, for the you collectors out there, uh, you used to be able to ship stuff from Zavi UK site to the US, and you get some good deals. I got a lot of good deals in the past through Zavi. And now you can't ship. They will no longer ship to the US. So bye bye to those deals because something's going on with the Royal Post or the Royal Mail, and they basically have stopped shipping to the US indefinitely. So who knows? Maybe they might start shipping to the US again, but they're not doing it anymore. So there's a lot of Zavi exclusives. Like there's a box set of the Pirates of the Caribbean films at 4K, and that's a Zavi exclusive. So you can't import that to the US, which sucks. So there's going to be a lot of stuff where you're going to have a lot of people who are going to be left out, and you're going to have a rise in scalpers. We're just going to buy a lot of these Avi exclusives and then sell them for like crazy prices online to US customers who can't get them shipped to the US, which sucks. Um Thoughts on the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition best and worst changes? That would be a whole video, Liam. It's too many. Too many. I would say the Cloud City stuff in Empire Strikes Back, that was really cringe to look at in the theater because I saw the special edition version of that in the theater. Um the whatever, a lot of the additions were just not nonsense. Vader going no is way up there in terms of the worst changes. No, like oh my god. Uh and he did that more than once. You had like the no, and then like that was the bit in the third movie. But no, they added another no in Return of the Jedi, which is just equally as bad. Yeah, you can buy the second movie, the Donner cut in the steelbook, but like not the other ones separately for some reason. This is dumb, but you have to get the box set for that. Um, Thoughts on the upcoming RoboDoc? Uh, as far as I know, it's going to be streaming, and I think because I've been in contact with Christopher Griffiths, who's the director, numerous times in the past, and he and the producers are still saying that there will be a physical copy that will be available to non-backers of the Kickstarter, the Indiegogo, but that might be a while till that happens. But I did hear that there's supposed to be something streaming, like a streaming premiere, in 2023. So, and it's just going to be on the first movie, if I remember correctly. The other stuff, I guess, will happen later. Luis, I put it in storage. Like I still have it along with my Darkman poster. And I know somebody mentioned about the Wolfen poster. I still have that too. But you know, one of these days I might switch out some of the posters, but right now I'm just kind of fine with what I have on the wall right now. Um do I agree The Rock plays the same character? Yes. Definitely nowadays, that's for damn sure. Samuel, I'm not really familiar with Frances Fisher. I'd have to look at her filmography. The name doesn't ring a bell off the top of my head. So, um, thanks, Luis. Thanks for the kind words. Vin Diesel is still getting jobs because his Fast and Furious movies. That's it. That's it. Have you seen him get other jobs lately? It's all franchises with Vin Diesel. Nothing else. Um, did I know that there are rumors National Lampoon's Vacation will get a 4K? Yeah, I heard about that. I think I talked about it in my review. Like, it's not really a film that I think would benefit immensely from a 4K transfer. So I don't. I mean, I wouldn't mind picking it up if it gets announced, but it's not one of those. Oh my god, I have to get it type of releases. Oh, Winslet's mother in Titanic. Okay, she was fine. I haven't seen Titanic in forever, by the way. Monteval, I'm not familiar with anything with Ida Lupino either. More like I don't know, Lupino, because I don't know. Um, yeah. On that note, I think I'll probably call it a night. Um, thanks again for everybody for joining the chat. I will try to complete this list in the future. Hopefully, I will be allergy free throughout the entire stream that time around. The next time around. But until the next time, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. And stay out of trouble.